We are live now.
Yep.
Over to you, Matthias.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't show here that we are live, but I think we are, yeah.
It shows on my screen, so.
Yeah, the browser client's probably not very good for live.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the 2020 June 17 Diagnostics Working Group meeting. We are going to go through the items that are on the agenda for this week. But before, does anyone have any announcements? Okay. Moving on to the items.
I guess the only announcement that I'm thinking of is the Collaborator Summit is next week. And I think Jarish, you'd submitted a topic.
Yeah, that's right. So basically on the node.js diagnostics.
Right. So anybody who's listening, probably interested in diagnostics. So if you can come to the OpenJS World Collaborator Summit, it's another good opportunity to get involved and talk about diagnostic stuff.
I also have a topic related to bugs, which I'll get into in the Async Hooks update.
Just having a bit of a hard time hearing you. Can you
yeah, I have a session for the summit as well, just related to hooks.
Okay. So again, yeah, that's a good one. Talking about async hooks.
Were those two topics accepted by the foundation? Honestly, I haven't been following the organization that much, so I'm not sure how.
Yeah,
I'll check in the background.
In the draft schedule that I saw, so I think so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's my recollection. That seemed like most things had been accepted.
Yeah,
I just. Sorry, go ahead.
I just pinged you the agenda in the chat.
Cool. Yeah, I imagine since it's online this time, they're going to accept more sessions, since we're not limited to a given number of rooms.
I think it's just so far it didn't look like it looked like there were still like some ad hoc times, so or rooms. So I don't know if there's more, but it doesn't seem to have been an issue anyway.
Yeah. Here, room would mean the virtual connection links, unique links, right?
That's
right.
Yeah.
So for people listening on the 25th, it appears to be 9:30 is the Node.js Diagnostics one Jarish submitted, and 1 o'clock is unifying the hook systems in Node.js. That sounds like it's broader than just async hooks too, right, Stephen?
Yeah, it's talking about there's been a couple different systems emerging recently that touch a lot of the same systems. So I want to have a discussion with everyone interested to try and unify underlying parts of that.
Yeah, no, that sounds like an interesting discussion for sure.
Right. Any other announcements? Okay, so let's move on to the items we have on the agenda. First one is async hooks, stable API tracking issue.
Yeah, so I've been working on a couple things related to async hooks. There was an issue with how venables are handled by promise hooks in V8s, which is fixed now and landed in V8s. And we have a cherry pick of that commit in a PR right now, which seems to have approval. So I think we can land it now. So that should fix the denables issue, which is good.
Does that completely fix the issue, or?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And then there's another PR which I've been working on, which basically with async hooks, currently like most things are triggered through the internal callback scope, which creates like 3 separate entries into JavaScript. There's the before trigger is one entry, and then it returns to the callback scope, and then it calls the callback itself, and then returns to the callback scope, and then it calls the after. So you have like repeated back and forth from the native and JavaScript side. So I made a PR that introduces a trampoline function, which was basically what domains was already doing. But it basically merges the before, after, and callback into one single JavaScript side function. And the idea of that is like it reduces the 3 entries into one, which already shows a little bit of performance advantage, but also it will enable us to move a whole bunch of async hooks into the JavaScript side, and we won't have to have any coordination from native JavaScript at all in a bunch of cases. For the most part, consuming of data related to async hooks is only really doable on the JavaScript side. The native side, like all it actually really needs to do is give IDs to async wrap objects. So all of the currently there's the execution async resource maintains a like stack that it's synchronizing between the 2 sides, and there's some additional expense even when async hooks is not enabled that was introduced with that. So my plan is to eliminate that entirely by moving all of that to the JavaScript side, and it will actually only track resources when async hooks has actually been required.
So the APIs let us provide pre and post hooks in the native side as well. Does this like remove that, or does it change it, or?
There's not really much in the way of like native side hooks. Like there's on the async wrap class, like there's the emits functions which still exist. They just the functionality related to those will just get skipped in the case that there's the callback trampoline loaded, but only in certain cases. Like there's still some cases like promises, you can't actually fully wrap the like microtask. So that will remain 3 separate entries. Like there may be other cases that use the internal callback scope where it's still going to create multiple entries.
Okay, but it doesn't change the async hooks API then. That's what you're.
Not really. There's like some minor things will be removed, mostly just related to the execution async resource stuff. That just gets moved to the JavaScript side. So like the stuff that's been there forever probably won't really change much, if at all.
Okay.
I'm still kind of working through that. The PR that I have open currently, all it does is move the trigger of the before and after to the JavaScript side. Everything else remains the same.
any, like, I guess having fixed the thenables, the only other question I had was, are there any other known issues with the async local storage?
Not really issues exactly, more just like there remains the usability problem of like any sort of like user land queuing is going to potentially introduce context loss. So
Right.
like async resource, we need to, I think, do more to communicate that people should be using this.
Right. Okay. So, but it's like no technical, like I know when the thenables was one case where it's just like, you know, there's going to be a problem. This is, I don't think, from what you've just said, that's no worse than any of the other out of core solutions had, right?
Yeah. So most cases of like user land asynchrony, like it's all in JavaScript. It's flexible enough that you can just wrap whatever you're doing in an async resource.
Yep.
The problem with thenables was like it's a language feature, it's syntax. There's
right.
not really anywhere we can hook into, so we have to fix it in V8.
Yeah.
So it's essentially the same problem, just the place we have to fix it is more complicated.
Right. Any relation to, like, I mean, I know that I've seen, I think Anna was working on a thread pool. Maybe that's not related though. But like there's a thread pool module. Is it that there's a couple modules that if we got the right changes in there, it would cover, like it'd be a good way to say, hey, if you use this to get your asynchronous pools or whatever, you're going to get the right behavior.
I honestly haven't really looked too much
Okay.
at that stuff yet. So,
Okay.
Anything else on this topic?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Discussion and support of eBPF. This one was added a month ago for a presentation. The presentation happened. Maybe we should remove it now from the agenda, unless someone has anything to discuss about it.
Of course, the only thing is to know whether we had any action items from the presentation.
One action item I remember was covering, going through the use journeys we have and identifying where BPF could be used. But that's not something we do on this meeting, it's on the deep dive meeting.
Yeah.
So do you think we should keep it on this agenda as a reminder, or we can remove it?
Yeah, I mean, one way is to keep this as a reminder for the recurring meetings. Other way is to add a to-do in the deep dive document so that we don't forget it.
You recently introduced a new tag, which was, actually maybe you didn't create the tag, but like in the issue creation. Oh no, there it is. Diag best practices agenda. Maybe what if we put that on instead of the Diag agenda?
Yeah.
So it would just show up as a reminder there.
Let's try it. Let's keep both. So if it works next week, we can remove the Diag agenda. Otherwise, we have it as a reminder to try again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so probably let me explain. The Diag best practice agenda is originally devised for agenda items that come in the diagnostic best practice meetings, which we set up. But last week, I transformed the best practice agenda template to the deep dive template. And if everything goes smooth, I guess next Monday, we will start seeing that invite. So ideally, this label also should be transformed to diagnostics deep dive agenda.
Maybe you'd have to update the meeting invite stuff again as well, but.
Oh, okay.
Just because they have to be matched, right? Like, I think, like, I guess it depends what you used. I didn't look to see if you changed that in the templates, but if the templates still say Diag best practices agenda, then we just need to synchronize changing that. If you actually changed it to Diag deep dive or something, then yeah, this tag won't work.
Okay, I got it. I will take an action to see, make sure both
Okay.
are in sync. Yeah,
Sounds good.
but essentially, all the items which we want to discuss on this instance of the meeting will go as DAG agenda, and anything that we want to go for deep dive will go for the other label, which I will synchronize. Maybe look at it tomorrow also.
Sounds good.
Because I think in the end, like this was open to say, should we use eBPF more or less, or like, because there's been talks of removing things. But I think you know, if they actually make sense as part of the best practices, then that would motivate that. So it's a good way to drive from that side.
Yeah, I think as the diagnostics working group, what we can do is discuss it in the deep dives. James has a TSC strategic initiative to improve tracing in general, and BPF is covered on that initiative. So I don't think it's something that we need to. The technical side, I think it's something that we should keep an eye on.
Yep.
To make sure that whatever comes up from there is aligned with our user journeys. But it's not really something that we need to drive.
Yeah, it makes sense. Once that gets started, I haven't seen anything yet on that front, but once it gets started, yeah, I think you're right. Just get involved there or keep an eye on it. It's the right way to go.
Okay. Anything else on this item? All right, moving to the next one. Reviving zones, like proposed in TC39.
Yeah, we have presented the proposal on to the T39 previous weeks. So we have on the meeting we have many concerns raised about the dynamic scopes of the async hooks. So user code can be executing arbitrarily between host and user line code. So there are security concerns that are raised during the meeting. So I'm currently trying to address the issue raised by the delegates on the meeting, and maybe I can show my screen. Let me try. Seems like my Zoom doesn't have permission to share my screen. I have to restart the Zoom client.
Are you going to share slides or something? Because you might be able to paste on chat, and if it's public, you might be able to paste on chat and someone else can share.
I'm sharing my links, so.
But yeah, it's interesting. I don't see the, oh no, I do have the share screen. So, okay.
Legendicus, can you try now? I made you the co-host. Probably
Yeah,
you should be able to do that.
I can share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. My first thought was that we can reduce the async the capability of hooking into the life cycle of the async resources. So basically, I'm trying to restrict the listening of the events. So currently I'm only scoped the listening to the value changes of the async local, which is the previous async local storage. So in the new proposal, maybe we can, and there are concerns that raised during the issue that the name of async local storage might be confusing since they are similar to local storage. So the thought might be I have renamed the async local storage to async local to reflect that they have no relating to a local storage. So, and the changes I have made during the last few weeks is that I have removed the async hooks from the proposal completely, since there are concerns that regarding the dynamic scopes of the async hooks in the language specs. So in Node.js, we can still have async hooks for the Node.js platforms, which is okay, and we can have async restricted version of async local in the language implementation. So in the V8 or other language JavaScript engines, they can optimize for the async local for performance issues. And besides these changes, I think they are very similar to the original proposal and the current Node.js implementations. So that's my initial idea of improving the proposal to the between the next T39 meetings.
Okay, so it kind of makes sense. Like we introduced async local storage as an idea of reducing the surface area to make it potentially easier to be comfortable. We weren't exposing too much. It sounds like the discussion at TC39 was aligned with that. Like they were okay with the async local part, but the hooks themselves were concern was.
Yeah, I think the idea on the meeting is similar to that. Is that async local is interesting and very critical to the language, be a part of the language, but the issue surface through async hooks is concerning, and there might be it better be left out from the language, and we can have it in host platforms like Node.js.
Okay, so that's interesting. It's maybe a confirmation that doing just the async local storage was a good path, like as a separate thing. So is it that it's going to be, you'll bring it back to the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm planning to bring this proposal back to the next meeting to seek consensus to move the async local part of the proposal to the stage 1.
Okay. And if that was like approved, would we need to do much in what we have versus, you know, other than removing the storage part to the name? I guess we would inherit an implementation from V8 at that point.
I believe we can do aligning with the proposal in node.js implementation after we have reached the stage 1. Since
Okay.
if we are not reaching stage 1, there is potential changes to the proposal.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
And this is what I share, and yeah.
Have you showed the new API surface to the delegates that objected in the last meeting?
The new API that we have see just now have not been shared in public and to many not yet. I'm seeking to share this new design to let's say the ICS proposed champions groups and the other group and maybe other groups in the next few weeks before the next D39 meetings.
Yeah, I think sharing with the champions of other proposals is good, but more importantly is sharing with the 2 delegates that objected.
Yeah,
because
I think
otherwise
so.
they might object again.
Yeah, I'm planning to have a like say online meeting with them the next few weeks. So I'm planning to invite them in the next few days.
Cool. Thank you for working on this. All right, anything else on this topic? Okay, moving to the next one. COVID-19 and working group settings. So this is a recurring item to check on everyone to see if our current pace is working for everyone or if it's getting a bit overwhelming given current events.
I'm good.
Yep. We might want to cancel the meeting for next week just because it's OpenJS World, but.
Oh, true. That's going to be the second deep dive we're going to cancel.
Do we want to switch the next one to be a deep dive, like 2 weeks from now to be a deep dive instead of?
Yeah, next week is deep dive, and last week we didn't have a meeting. So maybe we want to schedule a ad hoc meeting or have the deep dive instead of the next working group meeting.
That's what I would think. Like if we reschedule next week's deep dive to be the week after, and then cancel the other one, unless there's something urgent, that would make sense to me.
We're probably going to get plenty of the core meeting at the summit anyway. So
Yeah.
I need another one, like effectively 3 weeks in a row.
So if people agree, I'll move this one to be the first, like the next deep dive to be the first. Does that make sense? Okay, I haven't heard anything, so I'm gonna do it. Any complaints?
I'm gonna have to drop out now. See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, next item, report version semantics are not defined. I think I still have an action item to comment on this issue. Besides that, I don't have anything to say about it. Does anyone else have something to discuss on it?
I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, the only thing is report is now stable and we did not have any issues reported from the users, that is externally. This version kind of concern is from within, from the collaborators. So I don't know what that actually means, but it should be an internal concern and it could be scoped from that point of view.
Right, I think at the minimum, we need to clarify when you would change it, right? Because I think that's where the collaborators were unclear on.
Yeah, that's right. But what the point I was trying to make is that we don't want a heavyweight protocol or a schema or a complete big algorithm to define the whole thing, because at the end of the day, there may not be an end user who is really interested or whose things may get broken. I mean, it's my argument. I may be wrong.
Right, like let's not, if we're not getting complaints, involvement from end users, let's not engineer something complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike an API interface where changing the signature, changing the way the API is exposed is clearly a concern for the developers and end users. So here, uh, uh, it may not be as severe as that.
Okay, so it sounds like we can continue the discussion in the issue itself.
Yeah. Unless we are actually come up with something very simple, which everybody agrees that, yeah, this is simple and elegant, which will define the version semantics.
I guess the other question is, has there been any changes, anything that's resulted in a change that's caused a problem? I don't know.
I don't think so.
So that's also an indicator of potentially whether it's a problem or not.
So maybe we can remove from the agenda and keep discussing on the issue.
I think we could
Yep.
do that, and then somebody could put it back on and when they think there's something specific for the meeting.
Sounds good to me. Yep.
Okay, anything else on this item? Moving to the next one, Node CPU profiling roadmap. So I added this item a while ago to discuss collaboration with the VA team. And I don't think we had any progress on that, and I'm not sure we are going to have in the near future. So maybe we can remove it. Unless someone else has anything to discuss about it.
No, I think taking it off the agenda until like there's somebody who wants to try and push it forward would make sense.
Yeah, so the biggest issue is some users have detected in the past lots of overhead with profiling, especially on startup with the V8 profiling.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be prohibitive on production. So the suggestion was to discuss with the VA team and the Chrome DevTools team if there's anything that can be improved there. But we will need some data as well as someone willing to reach out to them. I don't think anyone has either of these at the time. So yeah,
I
let's
agree.
look for the agenda, and when someone has time and resources, they can start the work and re-add it.
Sounds good.
Cool. So we finished all the items we had on the agenda. Does anyone else have anything to discuss?
One thing which I remember right now is there was a end user feedback. Sorry, there was a contributor feedback that James has collected from the project, Node.js project, which has reference to the user experience with diagnostic capabilities. I didn't read too much details about that, but if I recollect correctly, it was not very good. So probably it's worthwhile as a working group to sit together and having a look at that and discuss around it as an agenda item.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like maybe create an issue and tag it for the agenda that says review the collaborator feedback and discuss.
Yep. I will open an issue so that we don't forget.
Yeah, makes sense. That might remind us to go take a look and then show up on the next meeting. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I had.
I guess talk to everybody next time. Oh, I think you're on mute or we can't hear you, Mateus.
Okay, Matthias is chatting saying that
Right.
doesn't know what happened, but
I think it sounds like we're done. So we'll talk to everybody later.
Yeah,
Bye.
sure.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.